Hi, I'm Jacob McCourt, and I'm one of the co-hosts and producer of the Left Behind Game Club podcast. We are a bi-weekly video game book club podcast you can find on all major podcasting platforms. And today, I want to tell you about a game that is very, very special to me, and that is Kirby Super Star for the Super Nintendo. Now, I'm a Kirby stan, and even though I have tons of fond memories about playing Kirby Dream Land 3 with my younger brother and Kirby 64, I have to pick Kirby Super Star. You know, Kirby Dream Land 3, when you think about it, has really cool animal friends that you can jump and ride on, and they give you unique versions of Kirby's limited powers in the game, but you know, the color palette's maybe a little bit muted, it's a short game. Kirby 64 had an amazing power combining ability, but the 2.5D just didn't quite do it for me and didn't hit the highs that Kirby Superstar hit for me. It's developed by HAL Laboratories and published by Nintendo in 1996, and this game is a compilation. And it's split into many smaller titles, some of which you can finish in like 10 minutes. But essentially, it was the first time where you really, in my opinion, got to see what Kirby could do. The game, like I said, was split into tons of different smaller games. There's a remake of the original Kirby's Dream Land on there, which is kind of the way that you kick off the game, and then you get into progressively more difficult and interesting, mini games. One of the mini games is called the Great Cave Offensive, which is kind of like a Metroidvania, like a very light Metroidvania, where you have to search for treasure across 4 areas, and there's a ton of like different references to other Nintendo franchises in there. Like you can collect the Triforce, you can collect Captain Falcon's hat, and so that's cool. And then also there's more, I would say that there's more difficult and more intense single player games like Revenge of Meta Knight, where you literally have to go on his ship, the battleship Halberd, to take him down. Each level has a time limit, and it gets pretty intense. There's even like a crew that backs up Meta Knight, which I think is the first time that had happened. And I just remember very distinctly in that game, when you finish it, it may only take you an hour to do, there's a sequence where you jump on your PAL wheelie to escape the halberd as it's blowing up in about 40 seconds, and it's just very good. The game does some cool stuff that hadn't been done in a Kirby game before. Stuff like some of the powers that you got to play with. So I think it was the first time that you got to play with powers like Yo-Yo and Jet, which was just really good to play. I think why I love this game so much is just kinetically, it feels so good to play as Kirby. And I think it was the first time that there was a lot of variety to the movement and the powers and the levels that you didn't necessarily get in previous Kirby games. The way Kirby starts a run, the way he bounces off the ground after floating. You can even generate companions based on the power that you're holding. Essentially, you hit a button and you get to like create a pal that goes along with you. Some of them are adorable. Most of them are adorable. And the stories build off of each other between games. So I know this is a minor spoiler for a 25-year-old game, but you beat Dynablade, which is kind of this bird that has a really articulated neck in the game, and she actually helps you in a later game. So, is the game perfect? Absolutely not. But, this is a celebration of really fun, good games that had a huge impact on you. And although there's some duplication in this collection, I think it's one that to this day you can kind of still play. Apart from the kind of single player stuff, the story focused stuff, if you will, there's also mini games. So there's an arena mode, which is a boss attack mode, and there's also 2 like little mini games. One of them is called Samurai Kirby, which is like a little timing mini game, and then Megaton Punch, which is a game that you have to essentially like, it's a button press that you have to hit at a certain point to make a planet crack. And I think you can play that one kind of in a 2-player mode too. This game's available on, Super Nintendo, but you can play it on other platforms too. Namely, if you have a Switch, you can go on the Super Nintendo service that's included with your Nintendo Online subscription and just start it right away. I know that, in preparation for this, I jumped into it for probably, 20, 30 minutes, and it's exactly what I remembered as far as how it played. But if you don't have a Switch and you have a DS, the game's also out on DS. They did a remake called Kirby Super Star Ultra, and they added a bunch more stuff to it. So in addition to getting a brand new sprite treatment, you could also play additional games. You could play as Meta Knight in one of the games. It's 32-bit, it looks great, and I would be remiss to not talk about the music in this game, which, Kirby has a lot of fantastic music. If you don't believe me, you can go back and find some of the all-time Kirby tracks. Shiver Star from Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, Ripplefield 1 and Grassland 1 from Kirby Dream Land 3. But the music throughout this, especially Taking Over the Halberd, which is a song that you'll hear in the Revenge of Meta Knight game, is just top tier Kirby stuff, but also top tier Nintendo music. So I often change the games that make up my top 5 or my top 10 over the years as I add stuff, but I think that over time, one thing that's remained consistent as I've gotten older and played more games is that Kirby Super Star is still on that list. So it's a game that, you could probably complete in anywhere from 5 to 8 hours, maybe even less if you're very good at video games. But it's a game that I consistently always go back to and say it is one of my favorite games of all time. And given that on the Left Behind Game Club, we've played games like Shovel Knight, which are extremely good platformers. This one, I know from playing those games that this game still stands up and still stands the test of time. Please play it. It's a great game. If you want to find out more about what I do, I host a podcast, like I said, called the Left Behind Game Club. We do deep dives on games every month, and we try and do it in a positive, fun, and informative way. You can find my work at leftbehindgame.club, on Twitter at leftbehindclub, or you can find me on the internet at Jacob McCourt, JACOBMCCOURT, on all major social media platforms. Again, guys, thank you so much for having me on to talk about Kirby Super Star. It's a dope game, and I hope that more people play it. Happy gaming!